everyone, this is Priya Vashni, and in this video we are going to talk about the Plato's theory of education, right? So, first of all, why Plato gave the theory of education? What was the purpose? He has given the theory of souls, theory of idea, and then now we have studied about his theory of justice. Now we are talking about his theory of education. Now, point is why Plato has given this theory of education. See, Plato's theory of education is actually linked with his theory of justice, right? Is linked with his theory of justice. Now, I'll tell you how. Okay, so what we had studied in his theory of justice, that in a just state, everyone should perform the task according to his natural attitude or spiritual qualities of the soul, right? That every person should perform the things for which he or she is naturally suited for, right? This is what we had studied in his theory of justice. Now, this means that a person who is the man of reason should be involved in making laws. A person who is the man of silver, or he should be involved in ensuring the security. A person who is the man of copper should be involved in the task of production. Now the question arises. That how will one person will find the spiritual qualities, that how to find the spiritual qualities. This is one of the most interesting question which has now arisen. So, in order to find answer to this question, Plato has given his theory of education. Now we will see that how Plato, through his theory of education, finds the spiritual qualities of a person, and actually he's able to categorize people as per the natural classification which about which we had talked in our previous videos, right? Is it clear? So in as I have said that in his theory of education, he will be able to categorize, right? He will be able to categorize, which also means that he will be actually performing a kind of filtration. His education system will be a kind of a filtration process, and the how that will work. For example, if this is the funnel, right, and everything is going into it, then what will happen is, after or you can say that after the filtration, we will be left with the persons in whom reasons dominate, because this is what the purpose, right? What is the actual purpose? We need to actually filter out people, we need to actually categorize people basis their spiritual qualities, and to find those spiritual qualities, he has devises theory of education. Is it clear? Okay. So now question arises that what was the influence, right? What Plato was influenced by what thing, right? So basically, what Plato has done, or you can say it, how Plato came to his theory of education. So what Plato has done is, see, what he wanted. He wanted to make Athens an ideal state, right? And we have also talked about that a war between Athens and Sparta. So basically, there were two states, right? There were two states. One was Athens, and the other state was Sparta. So obviously, so what Plato did was, he actually compared the education system between these two states, and then he incorporated all the good things, and hence gave his theory of education, right? So what he did was he actually compared the education system of Athens with the education system of Sparta. Then he incorporated all the good things of both the systems, and hence he gave his theory of education. Is it clear? So what we will do is we will also first get into the comparison between the education system of Athens and the education system of Sparta, and one by one we will see how Plato is extracting the good elements of each education system. Then we will talk about the exact theory of education which was given by the Plato. Is it clear? Okay. Okay. So first feature, if I talk about the first feature, then in Athens basically जो education था, education was privatized. Education was privatized because we have also studied about sophists, right, which were the first political educationists at that time, right, which are also known as the first political educationists. So basically education was privatized in Athens, which also means that only rich can afford it, right? So when only rich can afford it, so there will be a huge chunk of people, there will be a huge chunk of people who will remain uneducated, right, who will remain uneducated. So this system was not approved by Plato, was not approved by Plato. Why? He was very much impressed by the system which was there in Sparta. So what was there in Sparta? So in Sparta there was the concept of state sponsored education, state sponsored education, or universal education, or universal education, right? So since Plato was very much influenced by this idea, so he discarded this idea and he actually incorporated this idea into his education scheme. So please keep a note of all these things which Plato is incorporating. One by one, all this will make sense to you. Is it clear? Second thing, second thing, second comparison, right? So I'll again write Athens and Sparta here. Okay. So according to so let me just complete this, sorry. So what happens is, so basically Plato, according to Plato, state is pedagogic, state is pedagogic, which means that imparting education is one of the important functions of the state. Why? Because education is the primary means of socialization, education is the primary means of socialization, right? So what Plato said is that if we want obedient citizens, if we want obedient citizens, then we need to educate them, then education system plays a very critical role in it. So that's how he actually incorporates this idea that the basically system of universal education instead of the privatization of the education. Is it clear? Now, second point which he compared was like that. So basically what happened was that in Athens only males were allowed to get education. Only males were allowed to get education while women were not allowed to get education. So this means that women were deprived of education. On the other hand, in Sparta, there was no discrimination on the basis of gender when it comes about imparting the education. So basically, both men and women were eligible to get education in Sparta. Is it clear? So again, this is something which was liked by Plato, and he incorporated this characteristic in his education theory. Is it clear? Next, next was next thing which he actually next point of comparison was the military education. Was the military education. So in Athens at that time, military education was not compulsory. right? It was, or basically there was a complete neglect of military education in Athens, whereas he saw that military education was compulsory in Sparta, so this is something again which Plato liked a lot, so he again incorporated this thing into his theory of education as well. Okay, he actually appreciated, right? He actually appreciated this again. Next point of comparison was that in Athens, there was emphasis on the study of mathematics, on the study of mathematics or logics, right? So, which actually develops the rational faculties, which actually develop the rational faculties. So, this is something which Plato liked about Athens, and then he incorporated this in his scheme. Is it clear? Now, next point of comparison was, again I'm writing Athens and Sparta here. Okay, so next point of comparison was that in Athens there was no control of state over education. Now, what does it mean? There was no control of state over education, right? It means that what is being taught to the citizens, it was not in the control of the state. Is it clear? While in Sparta there was a strict control over what is being taught to the students, right? So again, Plato does not approve this system, and he actually approves the strict control over what is taught, right? So because he believes that there should be the strict control and watch over what is to be taught. Is it clear? Is it clear? So this is how he has actually compared various features of education system of Athens with the education system of Sparta, and then he came up with his own with his own theory of education. Is it clear? Okay. Now we will learn about the Plato's scheme of education. Now we will learn about the Plato's scheme of education. So this is going to be very interesting, believe me. So he has given a very elaborate scheme, right? Very elaborate scheme of education. Why? Because he has emphasized, or he has focused upon the development of all the components of a personality. He has emphasized on the development of all components of a personality. Now, what are those components? The three main components of a personality are mental, physical, and spiritual. And spiritual. Is it clear? So, what Plato did was, Plato gave a very elaborate scheme of education. Why? Because he has emphasized on the development of all the components of a personality, that is mental, physical, and spiritual. Now, as I said, that this is going to be a kind of filtration process, right? This is going to be a kind of filtration process where he will be basically filtering out people, or basically categorizing people into three parts, that is man of gold, man of silver, and man of copper. Is it clear? Now we will see that how this filtration is basically happening in his education scheme. So basically, he devises various stages for his education system, right? So first of all, we will talk about the stage one of his education system. Stage one of education system, which was devised by Plato. What he says is first stage basically refers to the primary education. Primary education. So people who are in the age group of 0 to 6 years, they will first go through stage 1 where uh, they will be given the primary education. For example, they will be taught gymnastics for physical development, music for mental development, moral stories for character building, right? So here also all the three aspects of the personality, that is mental, physical and spiritual, have been taken care into. Is it clear? Now we will after this we go to stage 2, right? Stage 2 will be the secondary education. Secondary education. So this basically people from 6 to 20 years in the age group of 6 to 20 years will be having this. So all the general subjects will be taught to the students in this stage. Is it clear? So first of all, the person will go through the stage 1 where they will be told the moral stories. They will be for the character building. They will be allowed to listen to music for the mental development, and they will be also taught the gymnastics and all for the physical development. After completing this stage of education, they actually go to the stage 2, which is basically the secondary education, where all the general subjects will be taught to every person. After stage 2, there happens the first filtration process. There happens the first filtration process, right? So what happens is when the person attains the age of 20, when the person attains the age of 20, right? So they have to give a test. They will have to give a test, and all the persons who pass this test, who qualify this test, they actually show their capacity to study further. This actually shows their capacity to study further. Therefore, promoted they will be promoted, while rest of the persons will join the producer class. So I'm again repeating that after completing this secondary education or stage 2 of the education, when the person is basically at the age of 20 years approx, then those persons have to go through the first filtration process where a test will be taken. So all those persons who are able to qualify this test, this will automatically imply the capacity of these persons to pursue higher studies. Therefore, all those persons who got passed in this test will be promoted, while else other all the people who actually failed in this test, will not be allowed for further education, while they will join the producer class. So here is how we get the man of copper through the first filtration, right? I hope I'm able to tell you or explain these things very lucidly for you, very clearly for you, right? Okay. Next next after this filtration process, first filtration process is over, then comes the third stage, that is the higher education, right? So basically people in the age group of 20 to 30 years will be allowed to take this higher education, right? So in this what will happen, so basically the level of the subjects, the difficulty level of subjects will increase. So as we had seen that in stage 2, every person was allowed to read the general subjects, all the general subjects, while in this first difficulty level of subjects will increase. Second, there will be a focus on maths, geometry and literature. Remember, Plato had incorporated this thing, maths wala ki, people should learn math. This was already in Athens, right? So he incorporated that. So what he said that okay, there will be focus on math, geometry, and literature. And after this stage, there comes the second filtration test. There comes the sorry second filtration test. So when the people attains the age of 30 years, he or she will have to give a test. Okay. Now again, who will pass this test shows the aptitude for further learning will be promoted, and all others, and the person who will actually fail this test will have to join the soldier class, will have to join the soldier class. So this is how he has now came up with the man of silver, right? So in the first filtration test, he has filtered out the man of copper. In the second filtration test, he has filtered out the man of silver, right? Is it clear? Okay. Okay, so one thing which I just forgot to tell you is that this higher education was again divided into stage one and stage two. Into stage one and stage two. So whatever we had talked about here is was the stage one, right? Now what? Sorry, stage one, stage two, and stage three. Basically, higher education was divided into stage one, stage two, and stage three. So what we had talked about was stage one. Now I'll talk about the stage two, right? So what we are talking about the stage two of higher education, right? So basically the people who are in the age group of 30 to 35 years who actually have passed the second filtration test will now get the education here. Now in this stage, dialectics will be taught to the people. In this stage, dialectics will be taught to the students. Is it clear? Sorry. And then there will be stage 3. Stage 3, that is 30 to 50 years, sorry, 35 to 50 years. That so basically persons who are in the age group of 35 to 50 years, now they will be given 15 years of practical training, of practical training. Thus, a person who is of 50 years now will become eligible to become the ruler. So now we have got our man of gold at the age of 50 years. I hope you have understood how, through his education system, Plato has filtered out man of gold, man of silver, and man of copper. Is it clear to you? Okay, so now as we can see here that many of the persons will be in the age group. So what Plato says is, so many philosophers will be produced here. So at the same time, since there are many philosophers, now how will you select the philosopher king or the philosopher queen? So now the question is, he has filtered out every other persons. Now there are only man of gold, and among the man of gold there is a philosopher king or a philosopher queen. Now the task is to find a philosopher king or the philosopher queen. Now see how Plato will find the philosopher king. So, according to Plato, a philosopher has no lust for power, right? Why? Because he has the love for knowledge. He has the love for knowledge. There is no lust for power, right? So, obviously, philosophers will be reluctant to govern. Is it clear? Why? Because there is no love for power. Since philosophy, why? Because they have love for knowledge, right? So, what we will do is we will actually request, we will actually request them to accept the duty as a part of obligation towards the state. Are you understanding what he wants to say is? So what we will say is that okay, so we understand. See what Plato is trying to say is how Plato is saying is that okay, I understand that you are a philosopher, and hence I also understand that you don't have any love for power. You basically have the love for knowledge, but I request you, I request you to come to power as a part of obligation towards the state, because you live in the state and you are basically have some dues to pay to the state. So for that, you please become a ruler. This is how Plato is saying. Therefore, for a limited period of time, for a limited period of time, they will these philosophers will accept the responsibility, will accept the responsibility, right? Will accept the responsibility one by one, because there are many philosophers. So what he's saying is that for the limited period of time you become a philosopher. After that period gets over, then another person will hold that position, and hence one by one people will accept the responsibility. Is it clear? So basically, philosophers, according to Plato, philosophers are basically sacrificing their love for knowledge, their love for knowledge for the sake of the duty towards the state. Is it clear? Why? Because a philosopher king will be the symbol of knowledge. This implies that philosopher king, why? Because they are sacrificing their love for the sake of their duty. So philosopher king will be the symbol of knowledge and sacrifice. Is it clear? So, in the words of Plato, this is going to be the important statement. So, in the words of Plato, those states, those states are best governed where rulers are reluctant to govern, rather than the states, rather than the states where rulers are eager to govern. So this is what Plato has said, right? About. Um, so this is going to be a very important statement. Again, we will discuss this statement in detail in our next video. We will actually try to give the answer to this question as we had done in case of the theory of justice. Right now, here, who will be? Please note one point, that who will be eager to govern. So basically, man of appetite. Why? Because they have lust for power and money. And who will be reluctant to govern? Reluctant to govern? Man of reason. Why? Because they understand that real happiness does not lie in power and money, while it lies in the knowledge. So, money and power cannot be the goods, cannot be the means or source of good life. So this is what the Plato's theory of education was. I hope I was able to explain this to you. So if you like this video, then please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Thanks a lot for your time and see you in the next video. Thank you.